Hello everyone, welcome to the Oracle of the Central Sun. I am Michelle. This channel is about spirituality, astrology, all of those things that bring us to healing and awakening. So my focus for this full moon video is on the astrology and also the 5 things that are blossoming at this time. Full moons are when things come to a culmination, when seeds that have been planted before are blossoming and we're getting the fruits of what we planted physically, spiritually, emotionally before. So a blossoming is such a beautiful thing to focus on at this time. This full moon in Aries is happening at 14 degrees and 8 minutes. It is happening in South Africa at 5:47 a.m. in the morning on the 7th of October. Depending on your time zone, it might be sometime on the 6th of October. So this is a very dynamic full moon, as the ruler of the full moon is Mars. So there's lots of drive and action that can happen at the time of this full moon. And because it's in Aries, also new starts, we say that new moons are beginnings and full moons are culminations or fruitions. But as we know, it is a cycle, it is a spiral. So an ending is a beginning, is an ending. So there is a lot to talk about for this full moon. So it's happening in the sign of Aries. Aries is fast moving. Aries is about our individuality. Aries is about our choices that we want to move forward with. It is about new starts, new beginnings. So a lot of newness can come from this. And like I said, things that are sprouting from previous cycles. So we always look at the ruler of the full moon first, which is the planet Mars. And Mars is sitting in the sign of Scorpio at the moment. And Scorpio is the other sign in classical astrology that is also ruled by Mars. So Mars is very at home. Mars can bring out all its best qualities in the sign of Scorpio. Mars is a little bit slower moving in the sign of Scorpio because Scorpio is a water sign. So there's a little bit more of thinking things through than what you would get with Mars in Aries, which is very, very fast moving. So Mars is at home in Scorpio. It can bring its best energies. And at the same time, there's also an interesting element here, because where Mars is in Scorpio at 10 degrees, compared to where the full moon is at 14 degrees of Aries, there is an inconjunct or a quincunx forming between Mars and the moon. And this means that there's a bit of a lack of communication. They can't see each other very clearly, the moon and Mars. They can't communicate very clearly. So at the time of this full moon, this might mean that even though Mars is in a sign where it's strong, it can bring its best energies and qualities, there's going to be something about digging a little bit deeper, going inward, really digging for what the answer is, how to move forward, choices to be made. So in that quincunx aspect between the moon and Mars, it means that whatever is happening might not be that obvious, and something might be unseen that needs to be excavated in order for us to get a full picture of what is going on. So that is the main thing about this full moon that I feel is really important, that yes, with Mars, with Aries, with Scorpio, we can take action, we can move forward, we can find new ways of dealing with how we take action, how we deal with conflict with Mars, how we deal with anger, and yet more work is needed and inner work is needed. Scorpio is that sign of depth where Mars is sitting. It's all about inner work. It's all about the mysteries of life. So this full moon is definitely a time to dig a little bit deeper. And then the other aspect that is very prominent at the time of this full moon is Mercury sitting at 0 degrees of Scorpio with Mars, and it is squaring Pluto at the start of Aquarius. So all squares are more challenging aspects. They help us grow by maybe dealing with some conflicting situations. So when Pluto and Mercury are involved in the square, it can really help us to improve our communication. We may be faced with some more challenging communications that will come to light at the time of this full moon, and this might be one of the places where we need to dig a little bit deeper at the time of this full moon, to work with subconscious communication patterns, thought patterns, and really bring things to light in how we can communicate better going forward. So this is quite a challenging thing that might happen at this time, and also something that we can really work with and grow with at the time of this full moon. And then a very positive aspect that is continuing and that will be with us still until the middle of January, is that a minor grand trine that is happening between Pluto at the start of Aquarius, Neptune at the start of Aries, and Uranus at the start of Gemini. So the minor grand trine is made up out of a trine and 2 sextiles. These are more flowing, harmonious energies that are coming to assist us in our growth. This is all about cosmic expansion with Neptune, finding clarity out of unclarity. With Pluto, it's working with the subconscious. It's digging really deep. It's facing a death and a rebirth situation in order to become new. And with Uranus, there can be lightning, insights, awakenings. So these are very, very big energies, very, very expansive. And I feel such a big part of the evolution that we are going through at this time on the planet. So as usually, before I get to the 5 things that are blossoming at this time, I did get a Ching guidance for this full moon in Aries, and it is called number 43, Breaking Through or Resolution. And the guidance is confront challenges through resolution. Clarify what you must do and act on it. Have confidence in proclaiming what your decisions are. Act with drive and persistence. That's all of that energy that Mars is bringing. Drive and persistence. And also concern yourself with spiritual awakening. I feel so strongly that this minor grand trine with Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus is so much about our individual and collective awakening on the planet at the moment. So this is beautiful guidance from the Ching. It's about awakening. It's about getting clarity, resolution on actions, and having drive and persistence with what you know you need to do. So work with these energies at the time of this full moon and also for the 2 weeks after until the next new moon. So now we come to the 5 things that will blossom at the time of this full moon. And these are feelings to express at this time. I've really dealt so deeply with that spiritual law of what we feel comes into our field, what we feel inside in our inner selves first is what shows up on the outside. So I really would call for us to work with these inner feelings in order to have a manifestation of what is inside in our outer worlds. So the first thing that I got that is very important to feel at the time of this full moon, and which is also related to the I Ching guidance that I actually did first, and that is honoring your inner commitments to yourself and to others. Often when I speak to clients, it's often easier for us to honor agreements and commitments that we made with other people than it is to honor our agreements that we make with ourselves. Whether that is about cutting out sugar or, doing certain actions that you want to take on a daily basis and things not falling by the wayside. But those inner and outer commitments, they are super, super important to look into at the time of this full moon. And then the second thing that stood out in the collective at this time is certainty. And this is not a certainty of, I know by 2027 I want to have reached this goal. This is more of like inner value certainties where we are coming into a certainty of, I know that the value I want to cultivate is love. I know the value I want to cultivate is kindness and gentleness, and being helpful to myself and others. So it's a newfound certainty that we can move into at this time in respect to those values that we want to cultivate, and to really stick to those values through the inner certainty. And then the third thing that is important for us to feel and cultivate at this time is self-actualization. And this can mean many things, but I do believe that this is also related to the I Ching guidance. And this is just related to our awakening at this time. More and more people are going through a spiritual awakening. And there's stages of spiritual awakening. It doesn't happen very often that someone will have a huge awakening and be a transformed person, from one second to the next. The self-actualization and the spiritual awakening happens more on a day-to-day basis, where we have little shifts. And then when we look back 6 months, a year, 10 years, then we start seeing what huge transformations we've been through. But at this time on the planet right now, there really are huge leaps and jumps happening in terms of awakening. And this is also with what the astrology energies between Pluto, Neptune and Uranus are reflecting and mirroring back to us. The fourth thing is around wellness. And I always tell clients, and also for myself, wellness is something that is completely unique and subjective to each individual. So we can really find a newfound clarity in wellness for ourselves at this time of awakening on the planet. So, meaning, what is the best exercise for you to do? How many times of sunshine and being in nature do you need every day? We all unique, we all need these things to a certain extent, but wellness is really something that we can also wake up to at this moment. Foods that are not good for us, what we need to really cultivate in order to have our best wellness in our body, in our emotional body, in our spiritual selves. And then the last thing that can really be cultivated and felt and expressed and that can blossom at this time is leadership. And this is also maybe related to the honoring and the certainty elements of this time, and also maybe the spiritual awakening, because it can be about inner and outer forms of leadership. So you don't have to be the owner of a company or have a lot of people that report to you in order to be a leader. It is about who you meet every day. It is about those lives that you can affect, whether it is in a small or a big way, the people that you greet on the street, the door that you hold open, the kindness that you show every day. That is being a spiritual leader, Really, those small things that we do every day mean so much. And it is also about being a leader in your own life. What do you want to cultivate inwardly and outwardly in your life? And be that leader for yourself. Even if you are not a leader for anybody else, step into that leadership position for yourself. Really step into your higher self, connect to that part of you that is your absolute highest leader, and step into more of those qualities on a daily basis. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I really, really loved bringing the 5 things that are blossoming at this time. And so they are honoring your commitments, certainty in your values, self-awakening or spiritual awakening, wellness, and leadership. So work with all of these beautiful things at this time. And I wish you a beautiful full moon in Aries. And I am offering personal sessions. The links are below if you want to connect with me. And I am so keen to hear from you. What is blossoming in your life at the moment? Leave a comment, leave an emoji. It helps my channel to grow and my business to grow. I'm grateful for everyone here. And if you find value here, you can also buy me a coffee if that resonates with you. I thank you, and I will see you again next time.